Welcome to another episode of SuperSisters. Today, we're going to talk about how to make a goal. So to help us with that, there's an acronym that we use. It's called SMART. And we're going to talk about what each of these letters stand for and how we can use them to help us in achieving our goals by talking about what our actual goals are. So as an example, Sis, what's your goal?
Well, my goal is to really read more books.
That's a really good goal. And so that brings us to the first letter here, which is S. S stands for specific. So you want to state a specific goal. So why don't you write down your specific goal there?
Yeah, I'm gonna put read more books. Well, what's your goal?
Well, thanks for asking. My goal is actually pretty straightforward. I just want to get better at soccer. Better at soccer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you play. You're pretty good.
Thanks. So the next letter is M, which stands for measurable. We need to make sure that our goals are easy to measure. So how do we do that?
So for me, I might split it up. I might have a short-term goal, which is really easy to attain, and I might have a long-term goal, which might take me some time. So I'm gonna go ahead and split it up. My short-term goal will be to read maybe 5 to 10 pages a week. My long-term goal will to be reading maybe, I'd say 1 book a month is pretty manageable.
Okay, so you're gonna measure your progress and how well you meet your specific goal, which is to read more books, by coming up with a short and long-term goal of reading 5 to 10 pages a week or about 1 book a month. Wow, okay, that seems pretty easy to measure. And for me, the way that I'm gonna measure whether I'm getting better at soccer is by having check-ins with my coach. So after each game, I'm gonna go to my coach, I'm gonna ask him if he has any tips or feedback on how I did during the game.
Yeah, it might be a simple question like, hey coach, like how did I do? And if you're maybe a little shy or you don't feel comfortable, you can always ask your parents to go with you. So why don't you go ahead and write that down, Sus?
Great, so mine is going to be to check in with my coach and ask him for any kind of feedback on how I played that day. Yeah, right. So now that we have our specific and measurable goals, the next letter is A, which stands for attainable. But what does that really mean?
Well, that means that is your goal achievable or can you do it? Is it too easy or is it too tough and challenging? Well, in my situation, reading a few pages a week and ultimately reading a few books every month is pretty good for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put, yeah, it is attainable. Okay. What about you?
Well, checking in with my coach after each game and really listening to the feedback he has or listening to what he says, and then taking that home, practicing it, and using those things that I've learned in my next game also seems attainable or easy to meet. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 checks. All right, next is R. Is our goal realistic? So what does that mean for you, Sis?
Yeah, so for me, is it this realistic? Is it relevant to me and my life? Well, yes, I'd say that for me this is relevant. I like to read books. I like to increase my vocabulary when I'm speaking to someone. We read every single day throughout our life, whether it's magazines or journals or comic books or even textbooks that you're reading in school. It's very important to read. I know that for me, when I have my own book and I'm at home reading, I actually try, and if I don't understand a word, I'll look it up. Or if I need to write in the book and highlight certain things that are important to me, I do that. What do you do with books? Do you do anything interesting?
Yeah, I know for me, sometimes when I'm reading a book, I have a hard time understanding what I read. So like you said, I like to stop and look up words in the dictionary. So if there's a big word that I don't understand, I'll pause, I'll look up the word, and then I'll try and understand that word in the context of the sentence. And I'll go back and I'll try and really understand what is it that I'm reading and try and comprehend it as I'm going. Because you don't want to just read it. You want to really take in what the message is and what the book's trying to tell you.
Yeah. That's so true.
And remember, it's always okay to switch out your book. I know sometimes it takes me a while to get into a book, and I might find a book and realize that I'm not excited or that it's not really fun to read. And in that case, you want to just switch out the book. You're not failing or not attaining your goal by switching out a book or finding a different book. For example, I loved reading Harry Potter, but there are a few books that I read initially that I didn't really like, and so I just switched out the book.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's see, what's realistic for you?
Yeah, so for me, I know that getting better at soccer is really important to me because I really enjoy playing the game. I love being part of a team and playing with other soccer players. I love my coach. I love having that camaraderie or friendship on the field. And I love the way that it makes me feel. I feel really good after a game. And so I'm hoping that by getting better at soccer, I can just continue playing throughout my life and maybe even play when I get into high school or college.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the last one is T. And T is for time. It's very important because if we don't set a deadline or a date on when to finish our goals, then it's just gonna drag on. It could lead from 1 month to the next month. You're not gonna get it done possibly. So that's a really important one. So for me, my timeline or time-based deadline is really to check in every month to make sure I read a whole book. But I'm also gonna check in every week. If I didn't read those 5 to 10 pages, then I'm gonna need to pick up the slack on that and read it on the weekends, maybe Saturday and Sunday at night. I read a few pages, I'm already back on track, and I can go and start fresh the next week.
Okay. Wow, that's a great way to make sure that you're reaching your goals and you've set a good time limit. So do you want to write out? You said make up the slack on weekends.
That's right. So I'll put weekends, weekend, makeup.
Okay, and so that's given me some good ways to think about my own goal and the time that I need to set. You know, I'm going to be checking in with my coach after each game, but maybe I can put a time of 3 months, right? About a quarter. So 3 months, what I can do is I can reach back in with my coach and ask him if he's seen an improvement in my game. And if he hasn't, then I'll know that maybe I need to practice a little bit more off the field, or just work on some of my techniques further. But I'll definitely check in with him every 3 months. So I'll put 3 month check.
Great, that's awesome. Wow, I feel like we are so ready to accomplish our goals, reading more books, playing more soccer. It's so important to set goals so we can just grow as a person, and just know that making a goal shouldn't be too scary. There's always a way to kind of work it out through baby steps and write it out on a piece of paper and a pen. I know we did it on chalkboard today, but grab your pen and paper and work with us. This is a great opportunity for you to do the same.
That's a really good point, sis. I hope that you could follow along at home and, like my sister said, grab a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, and maybe at the very top, write out the same acronym, SMART. Make sure that your goal is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and that there's some kind of time to keep you accountable in achieving those goals. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow along for more.